Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, awesome. So today we're taking a look at Surah Al-Mutaffifin, which, for those who haven't encountered it before.
Really powerful surah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's one of the shorter surahs in the Quran.
Right.
But it's packed with these really vivid images and these thought-provoking ideas about justice and accountability.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't shy away from tough topics.
No, it really doesn't. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to jump into some excerpts from the surah itself
Sounds good.
and try to kind of unpack those layers of meaning together.
Great. Let's do it.
All right, let's start right at the beginning.
Okay.
The surah opens with this really strong condemnation of those who cheat in business dealings, like those who tamper with scales or who deceive others in trade.
Yeah.
It's super direct.
Yeah, it is. It's basically saying straight up, like, this is not okay. This is a huge violation of trust.
Right, like messing with people's livelihoods, right?
Exactly. And, in a society where trade was so essential, this kind of dishonesty could really undermine everything.
Yeah, totally. And the surah doesn't just say, like, oh, don't do this. It goes even further and emphasizes the day of judgment, Yawm al-Qiyamah,
Right.
where, everyone's actions will be accounted for.
Yeah. It's almost like it's saying, you might be able to get away with cheating people in this life, but...
But not on that day.
Exactly. There's no escaping accountability on the day of judgment.
And this is where those terms come in, like Sijin and Iliyun,
Ah, yes.
which are described as these numerical book. I mean, how interesting is that? A numerical book. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's really fascinating. The idea that there's this record, this detailed account of all our deeds, our actions.
And it's all being tallied, right?
Yes, tallied. I mean, it really highlights this concept of divine justice, that every single action, good or bad, is being recorded.
It's a powerful image. It makes me think of, like, those old-fashioned scales, with the two pans, like, one side for the good deeds and
one for the bad.
Yeah. It's being weighed. It's going to determine, where you end up.
Absolutely. And it really makes you think about the weight of our choices, doesn't it?
Totally. Like, how much weight does each action actually hold in that final reckoning?
Yeah, exactly.
So then the surah goes on to describe those who deny the day of judgment.
Right.
Their hearts are, they're described as, hardened and corrupted, and they dismiss divine revelation as just legends of the ancients. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty harsh critique.
It is, but I think it speaks to this very human tendency, this tendency to rationalize our behavior, even when it's wrong.
Right.
Like, we convince ourselves of whatever we need to believe to avoid facing the consequences of our actions.
It's like we build up these walls around ourselves.
Yes. Walls made of denial and excuses.
And we shut out anything that challenges those walls, even the truth.
Exactly, even when that truth could set us free.
Yeah, and that's something I've seen even in my own life. Like, it's tough when you see people making choices that aren't good for them, and you try to offer advice, but
they just don't want to hear it.
yeah, they've got their reasons, right? They've got their justifications.
Exactly.
And it's hard to break through that.
It is, but that's where compassion comes in, right?
Right. Continuing to offer that guidance and support, even if it's not always received.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then, in contrast to this description of the deniers, we have this beautiful, beautiful description of paradise, right?
Oh, yes. Paradise.
And it's like, it's so vivid.
It is. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, the righteous are described as being in elevated positions. Their faces are radiant.
And they're given this special drink.
Yes. This sealed wine, it mentions.
Oh, yeah, with musk.
Yeah, musk. And tasneem. Now, I have to admit, I had to look that one up.
Tasneem is described as the spring in paradise, right?
Right.
And it's supposed to be like the most delicious, pure water you can imagine.
Wow. So it's interesting because the surah uses all this sensory imagery, like the taste of the wine, the smell of the musk.
The radiant faces.
The radiant faces. Yeah, it's like it wants you to really experience paradise with all your senses.
I think that's the whole point. It's not just a vague, abstract concept. It's a real place.
Yeah.
Full of sensory delights. It wants to make it tangible.
Totally. I mean, it makes me think about, like, how we often try to describe spiritual experiences, right?
Hard, isn't it?
Yeah, words can only go so far.
Exactly. But I think the surah does an amazing job of conveying, the essence of paradise.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's also interesting because right alongside these descriptions of bliss, the surah talks about the behavior of those who disbelieved.
Oh, right.
Their mockery, their sneers, their like sense of superiority over the believers.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast, isn't it?
Yeah, really. Why do you think the surah includes this element?
I think it's highlighting the social dynamics at play, when faith and disbelief clash. Like, you have one group experiencing this deep inner peace, this joy.
And the other group just doesn't get it.
They don't get it, and their only response is to mock and belittle.
And it's almost like they're trying to pull the believers down to their level.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Like, if I can't have it, then you can't either, kind of thing.
Right. It's sad, but it's definitely a dynamic that plays out in the real world, too.
Oh, absolutely. We see it all the time, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So as we come to the end of our excerpt here, the surah ends with this super powerful question. Have the unbelievers been repaid for what they used to do? It leaves us hanging.
It does.
What are your thoughts on that ending?
Well, I think it's meant to provoke us, right? To make us really think about the consequences of our actions.
And not just like in the afterlife. I think it also applies to this life too.
Oh, definitely.
Like, are we living in a way that aligns with our values? Are we treating others fairly?
Right. Are we building a life that we can be proud of?
Exactly. So this deep dive into Surah Al-Mutaffifin, it's been a journey. We've talked about fairness, honesty, the day of judgment, the contracting destinies of the righteous and the wicked.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, but it's all so interconnected, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, it all comes back to the choices that we make every single day.
Yeah. Each choice, each action, it matters.
It really does. So to our listeners, I'd love for you to keep this conversation going. How do you think these teachings about the day of judgment, about paradise and hell, how do they influence your choices and actions right now in the present moment? It's something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.